Donald Trump just started a war, and I'm not playing with you. He just told the military to draw up plans to invade another country. And you're never gonna guess for what reason. I'll give you a little hint. It looks like the climate wars have officially begun.
The White House has directed the U.S. military to develop options for the United States to achieve President Trump's goal of, quote, reclaiming the Panama Canal.
If you had to guess which country Trump was going to invade first, you probably would have guessed Canada, or maybe Greenland, as he extended the statehood offer to them as well, after making the imperialistic argument that they'd love to become part of our empire. Which is a small surprise because Canada has been in the center of Trump's orange target for the last few weeks. Panama and the issue of the Panama Canal was quickly overshadowed by the actions of Doge. Trump's obsession with the canal has always been there, and now it's rearing its ugly head like a pimple ready to pop. At the joint address to Congress, Trump made it clear that retaking the Panama Canal was still one of his main focuses.
Just today, a large American company announced they are buying both ports around the Panama Canal and lots of other things having to do with the Panama Canal and a couple of other canals. The Panama Canal was built by Americans for Americans, not for others, but others could use it. But it was built at tremendous cost of American blood and treasure. 38,000 workers died building the Panama Canal. They died of malaria, they died of snake bites and mosquitoes. Not a nice place to work. They paid them very highly to go there, knowing there was a 25% chance that they would die. The most expensive project also that was ever built in our country's history, if you bring it up to modern day costs. It was given away by the Carter administration for $1, but that agreement has been violated very severely. We didn't give it to China. We gave it to Panama, and we're taking it back. And we have Marco Rubio in charge. Good luck, Marco. Now, we know who to blame if anything goes wrong. Marco's been amazing, and he's going to do a great job.
The weight of this little jab to Marco Rubio about anything going wrong wasn't really known to any of us at the time. They probably knew 10 days ago that Panama was first on the list for invasion. Oh, and by the way, those American companies that bought those ports, yeah, that's BlackRock. Not exactly your regular mom and pop. BlackRock manages more than a third of the United States GDP. But Trump has officially lost his mind. I feel like whatever experimental bronzer he's lathering all over his face is pickling his brain. What started as a project for humanity and was sold to the Panamanians as a gesture of goodwill may in fact be the starting point for World War III if Trump actually goes through with this.
The White House has directed the U.S. military to develop options for the United States to achieve President Trump's goal of, quote, reclaiming the Panama Canal, according to two U.S. officials familiar with the planning. Joining us now is NBC's Courtney Kube. Courtney, good morning. Tell me more about this.
Yeah, so this is something that President Trump has spoken very openly about. As you mentioned, he wants to reclaim the Panama Canal, which, of course, the United States turned over to Panama more than 25 years ago. This is all about an effort to deter China, Jose. So the U.S., the Trump administration, and frankly, some in the U.S. military believe that China is still trying to take control over parts of the canal. The concern is that if there is a conflict, China would try to exercise that any kind of control or any land or ownership that they have in Panama or of the canal, and they would try to stop the U.S. military or any U.S. ships from using it as a transit point. Of course, that would have a huge impact on not only supplies, but it could impact the U.S. military. In an effort to try to put off any kind of effort that the Chinese could try in any sort of a war, now the Trump administration believes that the U.S. military needs to have a greater presence in Panama. So among the options that were presented as draft options to Secretary of Defense Pete Hegseth this week by U.S. Southern Command are everything from increasing the military presence in Panama with partnered mill-to-mill relations with the Panamanian military, to building U.S. military jungle schools. Of course, the U.S. has had those in the past where they train generally special forces in sort of jungle warfare in the area. But there's everything from maintaining that free passage of the canal all the way to the United States ultimately having full control and ownership of that canal. Now, again, these are draft options. Nothing has been decided. But the belief among the officials we spoke with is that Panama will be on board with the U.S. having an enhanced presence in Panama so that most of these options will be more about the partnering, the enhanced presence, but they are not ruling out the possibility of the U.S. really taking more ownership of the canal in the future. Again, the goal here, Jose, is all about trying to deter or deny China any kind of presence in that area.
We live in the new Red Scare, but instead of Russia, it's China. The fear of a successful communistic China has racked the conservative brain so thoroughly that they're actually justifying invading another country. Even if they did have more of a partnership with the Panamanian government and use those relationships in order to shut out China, that would only further drive a wedge in the relationships between our two countries, inevitably leading to more conflict. And I have to reiterate, it's the fear that's causing these actions, not any actual policies or actions by China. Reuters noted that China does not control any part of the canal. However, a subsidiary of Hong Kong-based CK Hutchinson Holdings has managed 2 ports on either side for years. Now, Chinese people owning ports is not evidence of the Chinese gearing up to stop the Americans from being able to use the canal. But it doesn't even seem to really matter because this tiny Chinese threat has been neutralized by BlackRock buying them up. These ports managed by Hutchinson Holdings were the ones that were sold to BlackRock. To me, this seems more about taking control of the Panama Canal in its totality. This seems to be a blending of private corporate interests and US imperialism. I mean, the reason why Trump is doing all of this is because he thinks that the US is paying too much in order to use the canal. But the reason why the US has been having to pay more recently is not because of China. The rising prices that Trump laments have less to do with anything targeting the US and more to do with environmental conditions impacting all of the canal's users, though the US does use it more than any other nation. The canal depends on reservoirs to operate its locks. It was heavily affected by droughts in Central America in 2023 that forced it to substantially reduce the number of daily slots for crossing ships. With fewer ships using the canal each day, administrators also increased the fees that are charged all shippers for reserving a slot. It looks like the United States paying more is a direct result of climate change, something that drill baby drilling is not going to make any better. The droughts in Central America in 2023 were because it was an exceptionally warm year, something that's happening a lot recently. Trump has been railing against the Green New Deal, something that didn't pass 6 years ago, and has shown no intention on addressing climate change. I think Trump and his goons are well aware of the fact that these droughts are going to happen again, that prices are going to get more expensive again, and therefore it would be best for everybody involved, as long as you're an American, if the US just takes it. They're going to come up with any excuse to justify this invasion. Mark my words. I'm Tony Hinderman with Really American, and I'll catch you next time.